Hey guys, we are live. I am just going to make this public right now so people can see it. There we go. All right, guys, sorry, adjusting the camera there for a second, but here we go. Okay, guys, Happy New Year. First and foremost, Happy New Year. It's 2021, and that feels kind of really surreal and weird to say. I today thought, you know what better way to start the new year than to start a live stream on the channel? And what better topic to talk about today, because we're hearing everybody talk about New Year's resolutions and all of their goals and stuff. What better topic to talk about than managing and adjusting expectations, goals, and productivity when it comes to chronic illness, when you're dealing with chronic illness or multiple chronic illnesses? So, I've got some notes here. If I'm looking down, I'm just making sure I stay on track, but we're just going to start going through and talk about it today. With a new year becomes a new sense. Well, actually, hold on. I just want to explain quickly. If you hop on and you see what in the world's going on her head, I'll explain more about this morning later, but I've got a migraine going on today. I had planned to do this, did not want to not do this. So I've been able to mitigate the symptoms some, but the cold pack is probably 95% of the time on my head because I have a headache that has not gone away for almost 8 years. So just wanted to give that brief disclaimer. But like I was saying, New Year, Happy New Year. The new year has such a feeling of renewal, such a fresh start, such a opportunity to just start things new, even if it's just, flipping the calendar page. I know it's just another day, but it just feels different. However, along with that, especially since there's social media, we also are seeing an onslaught of people sharing their resolutions and their goals, their extremely high caliber fitness goals or dietary goals or just life achievement goals in general. And when you deal with chronic illness, and I will add this caveat, whether it is a chronic physical or chronic mental illness, when you're dealing with chronic illness, it's so easy to get caught up in the trap of seeing everyone's goals and everyone's resolutions and then just beating yourself up thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do any of this. I'm no good. So today, when we get stuck in that mindset, it sets us up for failure regardless of what our goals are. So today, just kind of wanted to talk about some specific things that we can do both with our mindset and also some practical, like put into action tips to make sure that when you're setting goals, when you're managing productivity, your expectations and everything, so you can make sure that you are not only not setting yourself up for failure, but setting yourself up for major success. So let's just dive on into it. I have a quote here, and I do not remember where this was from. I may have just made this note, so apologies on that. But it says, fear of chronic illness and the symptoms of chronic illness can keep us from taking action, but doing something is always better than doing nothing. And, I thought a good place to start here would be first, just, talking about goals versus resolutions. What are we doing? Because we hear resolutions, and I just saw, hi, Kenna, I see you in the chat there. Hi, glad you were able to join. I know you may not be able to stay on the whole time, and that is fine. I'm happy to see your face there in the chat, so thank you for letting me know. So just wanted to talk first, like we're talking about goals versus resolutions. So before I get into that, if you have any strong opinion on New Year's resolutions, and or if you have a resolution this year, if that's the way you decide to do things, let me know down in the comments below or in the chat here while we're live. Let me know what your resolutions are. But we're going to talk about why goals are a little bit better than resolutions for the new year. So quickly, goals versus resolutions. A resolution is, and this is an exact definition from the dictionary, a noun, a firm decision to do or not do something, the action of solving a problem, dispute, or contentious matter. Those are two different definitions there, but they're both in the dictionary. So we see there with that a firm decision to do or not do something. With a resolution, you are getting this all or nothing, black and white. I have to do it perfectly. I have to do it right now, and it has to be done this way, or else it's just not going to get done. It's not worth it. It's not right. whatever that subjective right is. So that all or nothing mentality just makes resolutions intimidating. And resolutions by nature often are intentions without a specific plan. I want to eat healthier versus I want to, okay, you got me there. I want to drink 60 ounces of water a day. That's a more specific thing. We'll get into specifics later, but the all or nothing mentality that often accompanies resolutions makes them extremely intimidating. And then again, that sets us up for failure. And that's also why so many people, you see jokes made about people changing their resolutions or foregoing their resolutions by the first or second week of the year. Goals, on the other hand, the definition that I wanted to share for that one, it says the object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or desired result, the destination of a journey. And that's an important word there that we're going to come back to, journey. But a goal, just by definition, sounds more attainable because it takes away that all or nothing, black and white, my way or the highway, this is the only way to get it done. And it embraces the nature of it being a journey and a process. And that's what life is, guys, especially when you're dealing with something like chronic illness that just completely flips your life upside down. So a goal also sounds more attainable because it doesn't require solving, as that one definition of an affirmation said. An affirmation is something that you're doing to try to remedy or solve a problem. Think, oh, I didn't drink enough water this year. Going back to that example because it's easy. Okay, I want to drink more water next year. Okay, there's your affirmation. That's well and good. But what if you want to drink 32 ounces of water before 2 p.m. every day for a month? That's a lot more specific. So goals are... we talked about affirmations not having specific intention, and goals are specific intentions with also a specific plan to follow through. And I think instead of setting a firm resolution, like you said, that requires solving, set a goal which is part of the journey and allows you to just enjoy the ride. Because I know a lot of times we just get caught up and we just want to accomplish and accomplish and accomplish, and we forget to enjoy the process because it is a process. And yeah, we're called to, that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to embrace the process and embrace the journey. Let's see. Oh, thank you very much. I just saw it's just so well put there. I appreciate that. Nice to get that confirmation because as always on camera, I feel a little scatterbrained. But I want to talk about really quickly, go over hit some points, some positives and negatives of goal setting before we get into the more mindset and then the specific tips and actions. So some positives of goal setting is goal setting can give you a sense of direction, a sense of focus, and a sense of purpose when you otherwise may not have one, or when you're struggling to see it. If you're able to put something together into a goal and a specific goal, it can give you a sense of direction, focus, and purpose. It can give you clarity in decision making, and that is a word that, oh my gosh, guys, how many of us could use more clarity? I know I could use more clarity in literally every area of life, but having goals can give you clarity when you're then making decisions. It also, goals have the ability to make you feel like you have achieved something. They can give you hope about the future, and they can help you maintain motivation. Now, on the flip side, some of the negatives, and we're going to talk about how to remedy these negatives, is that when you set goals, if you don't achieve them, a lot of times you feel like a failure. That's just human nature. We think, oh, I didn't achieve it exactly like I thought, so I'm a failure because I didn't do it right. Got news for you. You're not a failure. And also, some of the other negatives here, they can distract you from living in the present moment, which is something we all need to try to do more of, stay in the present moment. It can feel, goals sometimes can just become this sense of overwhelming pressure and stress that then unfortunately leads to unhappiness and more stress, which we're trying to avoid here. And, sometimes, let's be real, with chronic illness, sometimes it can be upsetting to realize just how little in comparison we can do compared to otherwise healthy people. So, it can be discouraging sometimes. And if there's a very specific goal and you get stuck on the end result of that goal, it can make you lose sight of the process and then therefore make you lose sight of the progress that you are making, even if you haven't reached that end result yet. So we talked about embracing the journey. We talked about the process. And I'm telling you right now, progress, there's a little quote that says progress makes perfection. No, progress makes progress. No one is perfect. No one can attain perfection in any facet of life. Jesus was the only one who in human form who could have done that and did do that. But progress is progress, and that's okay, because that's the name of the game. It's all a journey. We're all on the journey here. We have different specifics, but we're all on the same journey of life here. So a quick word on expectations, because I know we said we're going to talk about goals, expectations, and productivity. A quick word on expectations. There are two problems that we can fall into, two traps with setting expectations. One, we can set expectations too high, which, as we talked about, kind of sets us up for failure, because we know that we do have certain limitations, and if we set them too high and we don't reach them, we just feel that sense of dread and stress and unhappiness again. Or we can set expectations too low, which, you know, the thought process is, oh, if I set it low, if I set expectations low, then even if I achieve just a little bit, or if I do even a little bit more than what I said, I'm going to feel so much more productive. Well, the danger of that is setting expectations too low, having that mindset all the time is just not a good mindset to have when you approach life. It gets you in a negative mindset approaching life. And I'm not saying that in a negative versus positive, you know, fake it till you make it, smile, 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 happy, happy, happy all the time. But when we set our expectations too low, we're giving ourselves permission to have a negative mindset, because we're assuming that we will not be able to achieve something. So we're underestimating our ability. So just that quick word there. We set them too high, it easily leads to disappointment, and set them too low, and it has us approaching life with a negative mindset all around. So I'm going to get into the list of things here. I've labeled it. Well, hold on. Let's see. I'm going to check the chat real quick. We've got... Oh, I've never thought about it that way before. Yeah. I'm assuming that what you're talking about is setting expectations too high, easily leading to disappointment, and setting expectations too low, easily letting us even unknowingly living in this mindset of just negativity, expecting the worst things. So we try to plan for, you know, much less. We underestimate what we can do. That is, when I was planning for this and I came across that concept, I'm like, oh yeah, that really makes sense. So let's talk about here some important things to remember when you're dealing with all of this and chronic illness. And number one is learn and accept what you can do and what you can't do. There are certain things you can do. There are certain things you can't do. As much as I hate that, that is just the reality of living life, and especially living life with chronic illness. And, you know, your health, our health, the big picture of our overall health journey is not in our control. However, what is in our control is taking your scheduled medications, taking your prescribed supplements, doing all of your treatments that you're supposed to be doing for whatever illness you are facing and are trying to heal from. Doing those things are in your control, but the big picture of your health and the overall end goal of your health is not ultimately in your control. So take that pressure off yourself, because you couldn't control it if you wanted to. Another thing to remember is that attainable goals, when you see people sharing their goals and they're attainable for extremely healthy people or even generally healthy people, does not necessarily mean it is going to be attainable for you. And I'm saying that to myself as well. Just because Roger, my otherwise healthy husband, has a goal that is attainable for him, that doesn't mean it's going to be attainable for me, even though we live in the same house. We spend just about every day, all day together, except when he has to go to work. And just because it's attainable for someone else that is in a different health position or a different life position does not mean it's going to be attainable for you. But that also doesn't make you a failure. It just means you're at a different part in the journey right now. You're in a different season. So we're going to have to work on tailoring your goals for that season and understand your limitations. And not only that, but change the way you use that word. Find a way to make those limitations work for you creatively. For instance, I have been a lifelong reader, a lifelong bibliophile. I love books, love books. I ended up majoring in English in college and did not get to read for pleasure much then. That was almost a decade ago now that I graduated. But over the past 8 years, I've not been able to physically hold a book and read. And I used to be someone in the past who's like, oh, audiobooks, that's not real reading. So I don't want to get into that. I really want to hold my book. I want to smell my book. Well, I got news for you. Audiobooks do count. And once I realized, oh, I can listen to audiobooks, I've listened to now in the past 8 years around 1,000 hours of audiobooks only. So that's just, whatever your limitation is, instead of using it as a barrier, find a way, see if you can pivot it and use it in a creative way to help you reach whatever your goal happens to be at that time. Let's see. Oh yeah. And on that note, if you have any story of how you've creatively turned a limitation into something that can be a strength and work for you, let me know that down below too, or in the chat, because I'm really curious just to see what all kinds of things we got going on here. Another important thing on this, under this first heading, is do not compare. Not only don't compare yourself to other people, do not compare chronically ill you to previously healthy you. Now, I know for some of us, we have not always been chronically ill to the degree that you may be right now. Maybe it was more managed growing up. Maybe you didn't have symptoms growing up and something happened later on in life that then triggers your chronic illness. Whatever the case may be, don't compare yourself at any point now to a healthier you at any point in the past and think, oh, just because I used to be able to do that means I should be able to do it now. No. Setting goals based on what we used to do is another thing that sets us up for failure. And guys, why would you set yourself up for failure if you know you can avoid it? So if we can avoid stuff like, well, I used to be able to do that. I used to, but I can't now. So I'm just getting down on myself. No, it's okay. You used to. And if you can't now, that's okay, because you can find a creative way to use that limitation and turn it into a strength. And, when you do that, it also forces you to focus on your present and current abilities, which are so easy to lose sight of when we are so overwhelmed with all of the things that we cannot do. We forget to acknowledge the things that we can do. And there are always things, even if they seem minuscule to anyone else, they're there. So focusing on the present and on the present abilities we do have instead of the negative and the things that we don't have really just helps us overall, both mindset and then in turn, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every way. Let's see here. We're going, guys. We're going through this here today. Let's see. Oh, sorry, my notes were sticking together. All right. Oh, okay, guys, this is one of the single most important things, especially when you're dealing with chronic physical illness. And I'm sure I'm not going to be the first person that has told you this if you are living this life, but listen to your body. Let me repeat it. Listen to your body. On good days, when we have good days, and when I say good days, I'm meaning less symptomatic days where we're physically able to do more or mentally able to do more. We often can feel on top of the world, ready to attack anything that gets in our way, and just feel like we can do all the things. And we just want to go and go and go and go and run and run and run and run and just never stop. However, when that constant going and doing is not part of your daily routine, that is going to lead to a huge crash and burn. And when your body is exerting, or rather overexerting energy, even if you feel okay that day, let me know in the comments down below or in the chat live if you've ever dealt with that, if you've ever been like, okay, well, I need to get all this stuff done because who knows if I'm gonna be able to do any of this tomorrow. We were talking about at the beginning how chronic illness, fear can keep us from doing anything. So we choose not to do anything when in reality, doing something, a little bit of something is better than doing nothing. When the things are not in our day-to-day routine, the going and the doing, we're doing stuff like that, we're gonna have our crashes. So let me know if you have ever been in that position where you're like, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff I have to do. Don't know when I'm going to do it. Don't know if I'm ever going to have another day where I'm feeling halfway decent. So I'm going to go push through it all. And then the next day, oh goodness, or even later that same day, oh my gosh, I'm here in bed. I can't move. I'm going to be stuck here for a week trying to recover from this one day or this one afternoon or this 1 hour of stuff that I overexerted myself, even though I knew I should have paced myself. And that is so easy to say and much harder to do. So I just want you to know I'm acknowledging the fact that I know it is hard to pace ourselves. So I want to encourage you with a quote that I love. One of my mentors in the YouTube media world actually uses it a lot. And that is just simply your race, your pace. Not responsible for doing anything at anybody's pace except your own. And whatever pace you happen to be at any given point in time, even if it doesn't feel like it, is God's intended pace for you. So hold on to that truth, even when you feel like, oh my gosh, why is everything so slow or not moving at all? Let's see here. Okay, I'm just checking the chat real quick. I'm just reading through. Yes, so powerful. I can absolutely relate. Yes. Oh yeah. This is stuff that we're talking about in relation to chronic illness here, but I think in a lot of ways, a lot of this is universally human as well. A lot of the concepts of just, don't, comparison kills. Comparison is a thief of joy. We know that. And, setting goals on, or so I backtracked there. Sorry, did not mean to go backwards there. So on good days, it's easy to feel on top of the world and overdo it, which leads to crash. So when in doubt, rest. If you are finding yourself saying, oh my gosh, should I rest or can I push through? And should I push through to do this thing? Or should I just let myself rest because I might not be feeling great today, but I think I might be able to do something. So maybe I should do it instead. But then again, maybe I'll crash. No, if you're having to ask yourself, the safest thing to do is rest. Your body is never going to rebel against you for giving it the rest that it needs, but it will absolutely rebel against you when you overexert and you do not allow yourself that rest time. And we're going to talk more on rest closer to the end of this. So let's see. Oh yeah, we were talking about you do not have to do all the things just because you feel like you can. I actually talked about this in a video, and I'll try to link it in a card up above if I'm able. One of my other videos where I explained how in Genesis 2:2, and here's what the verse says. Genesis 2:2, this is near the end of the creation story. It says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. And that was Genesis 2:2. That particularly was the NIV version. But get this. A few verses before that, at the end of Genesis chapter 1, we're told that God created man in his own image. And then here, a few verses later, at the beginning of chapter 2, we're told that after he was finished doing his work of creation, God rested. So let's think about that. God created us in his image. God had to rest. He needed rest. Why would we beat ourselves up and tell ourselves that we don't need rest? We obviously are going to need rest if we're made in his image, and God, the creator of the universe, had to rest. You're going to need rest. So here's your permission to rest. If you struggle with giving yourself permission to rest, I'm giving you the permission right now. You're allowed to rest. And on notes of that, obviously, when you are cautious and aware of making sure that you're not overexerting, that will almost assuredly always help you avoid some major flares or some major pain or major symptom relapses down the road. Let's see. A very important thing to remember here is be careful of setting physical goals when you have a physical illness. And I will also add, be careful of setting mental goals when you have a mental illness, although there's a little more flexibility in that because there are objectively things we can do to work on mental health, even if we're stuck in bed, whereas there are physical things we may not be able to do in any way. So I'm not excluding mental illness, but I'm specifically talking about physical here. Be careful of setting physical goals with a physical illness because, again, the big picture is not in your control. You don't know how you're going to feel every given moment of any day. And the only exception to something like this would be, if someone has, for example, arthritis, they're told to move their joints, maybe take a short walk, 10 minutes, 15 minutes every day, or around their house just to keep their joints moving. There are certain things where movement is necessary, however, or where physical goals are useful, I should say. However, I would avoid setting lofty physical goals like, I'm going to go walk around the block every single day if you've not been out of your bed or your bedroom or house for, days, months, weeks, years, however long. You all live in this life. I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from here. So regardless of what the goal is, whether it's physical, whether it's anything else in nature, start low and go slow. Moderation is always key, and baby steps are not only okay, but they're encouraged. And I'll even tell you, Sometimes you might feel like you're crawling, and sometimes you might feel like you're on the ground crawling, like you're going through battle. You're an army, almost an army man. Soldier would be the word for army man there. That would be the technical term. You're crawling through, low crawling through on, I can't think of the word right now, but crawling on your stomach there through, even when you feel like you are being dragged in that circumstance, keep moving. Because it still is movement forward. It still is progress, and progress is progress. That's all you're shooting for here. All right, guys. Let's see. What are we doing? Okay, let's check the time real quick. All right. Yes. Oh, yes. A last little point under this about listen to your body. It's just something important. And this also applies mentally. Start saying no. And again, if you do not let yourself have permission to say no when people ask you things, I'm giving you permission. You're allowed to say no. Because, as we talked about at the beginning of this, if you try to do everything, if you try to do all the things all the time, you will end up able to do nothing at all. I don't know what that motion was. Nothing. You'll be able to do nothing at all. You'll end up able to do nothing if you try to do everything and you say yes to everything. You will end up having no option but to say no to everything. So instead, say no to things that you know you can afford to say no to. And honestly, there are so many more things that you can say no to without any problem than you probably realize. So we put pressure on ourselves, to people please, to say yes all the time. And absolutely no. You have permission to say no. And it's actually part of your treatment plan, I would say, because it's better for your health when you pace yourself. Again, your race, your pace. Learn to say no when you're not able to do something, so that when something comes up that is within your wheelhouse and your current abilities that we're focusing on, our current abilities, we're focusing on what we can do, you're able to say yes to those things when they arise. Okay, let's see here, guys. Number 3. I can't even let you guys know I can't even tell you guys how hard this one is for me. And it is avoid negative self-talk. Guilty. Anybody ever engaged in negative self-talk? You ever find yourself talking to yourself and the things you say, they're just not very nice. They're not things that you would say to anybody else that you know, or even strangers. You wouldn't even say some of the things that you say to yourself because they're so mean. Yet we do it to ourselves. We say horrible things to ourselves. We think horrible thoughts. And yes, a lot of that is Satan getting in there and trying to make us doubt ourselves and therefore doubt our faith. But we got to avoid negative self-talk, especially when it comes to goals and expectations and productivity. And like we talked about, goals should motivate you. They should be used to motivate you. They should not be used as a tool that you use to beat yourself up when you don't accomplish them. When our goals, like we talked about, when our goals only add to the pressure, only cause more pressure, that automatically, that automatically causes more stress. And then stress automatically leads to unhappiness. And it's this vicious cycle of beating ourselves up over not finishing a goal. So then there's more stress. So we're unhappy because we didn't finish it. So we set another goal. Okay, I'm going to try to do it again. But then we set the same goal because we mistakenly think, oh, well, it must be in my ability now, even if it really isn't. So when your goals are creating so much pressure, here's what I'm trying to say with this. It makes you stressed and unhappy. And that's bad for your mental and physical health. So don't be critical of your goals, of your progress on your goals. Be kind to yourself when you don't achieve what you've hoped necessarily, when you haven't reached that exact end result. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, guys. Give yourself grace. God's given you grace already. And he wants you to be able to give it to yourself. He wants you to give it to yourself in these situations because he doesn't want you to be beating yourself up. You are a very good creation. He said it was very good when he created you. That's how he ended it. He said when he created humans, God saw what he did and it was very good. So give yourself grace if you're not getting your goals. If you're not hitting your goals 100% exactly like you thought you would, because as I said, your race, your pace, you're on the right track, even if you don't feel like it, because God knows exactly where you're supposed to be in any given moment. Oh, I just looked down in the chat. I'm seeing some kind of praise worship going on. Oh, I see the raised hand. Okay. I thought maybe somebody would relate to that negative self-talk, because we as humans, especially as humans, but also especially as people who are dealing with chronic illness of the physical, mental, or both varieties, we get in those cycles so much. And I am the queen of it. I'm the queen of it, which is one reason I'm sharing this stuff, is so I can have this video to also look back on myself for these reminders and to give myself the permission that I often don't give myself. So yeah, I'm right there with you. And okay, recalibrating my thoughts. I kind of went off track there for a minute, but the next one, number 4, this is the 4th. I don't think I've been saying the numbers aloud, actually, now that I said that, but this was number 4. This was the 4th heading. It says we need to take everything one day at a time, 1 hour. Oh, that's going to be confusing if I'm doing numbers. So 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, if you have to. Just okay, wow, guys, I'm all over the place right now. Okay, so yeah, we're going to take life 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. Every day is obviously unknown in general, but especially when you're dealing with chronic illness, there are not only the unknown of what's going to happen outside in the outside world today, but there's the every single unknown that comes up with your health, comes up in your day-to-day life. There are so many unknowns with chronic illness. And that's another reason we talked about not setting physical goals. It's also best to avoid extremely specific long-term goals. And I know that sounds a little counterintuitive because we said goals need to be specific, and they do. But I'm talking about, okay, setting an annual goal. Here's my goal a year from now. Here's where I want to be with my physical health. Here are the the milestones I want to have reached a year from now with my physical health. And I put my notes down before I finished. Yeah, long-term goals. That's right. That's what we were talking about. Long-term goals are so difficult because of the uncertainty of chronic illness. You have no idea what's going to happen every day, much less a year down the road. So while long-term general goals are good, and I mean, you can have specific goals too that are long-term, but I urge you, do not stringently hold yourself to the timeline or the exact way that you think the goal is going to plan out when you first decide that it is your goal, because we just don't know how each day is going to go. And that's also, again, something you can't control. So take that pressure off yourself. You couldn't control it even if you wanted to. And I'm telling you right now, I don't want to be able to control it. Actually, that's a lie. My humanity wants to control it, but I know deep down in my heart, I don't want to, because I would screw it up. I would find a way to screw it up. And thank God, literally, that he cannot screw things up. So that was a little side there that I got into. Oh, I just saw in the chat here, my mom has jumped on here. Okay, she shared her New Year's resolution, says no more negative self-talk. Amen. I agree with that. I will, you know what? I will commit to that as well. But I will say, like I've also said throughout, progress is progress. It's all part of the process. So it's not necessarily something that I'm going to be able to stop immediately, but it is something that every day I plan to practice more. And I know that anybody else that wants to make that a goal, I urge you to. I mean, honestly, like we talked about, humans, we beat ourselves up way more than we ever really, way more than we need to. Not that we ever need to, but again, kind of got sidetracked there. Sorry, I was feeling spirit there for a minute. But okay, so here's an idea. Set your goals. Since the days are so uncertain, when you wake up in the morning, use that time to set your goals for that day. Once you have an idea of what you're feeling and what you can do, you kind of have a better idea of the types of things that you can put on your list and know that you'll be able to check off that day. And I want to make an important note. Getting through the day is a very, very worthwhile goal. It is a goal worthy of celebrating. And if that is the only thing that you were able to check off your list on any given day, that's awesome, because you made it through the day. And that is worth celebrating, because you are worth celebrating. Your life is worth celebrating. Otherwise, God wouldn't have made you. You are not a worthless creation. You are worthy and worth celebrating. So every day you make it through, it's just another day that you get to be reminded of that. And if you're not so great at remembering that yourself, again, let me remind you, you're worth celebrating, and getting through the day is a very, very worthwhile achievement. And another, okay, this is something I kind of alluded to this just a minute ago. Write it down, whether it's getting through the day, whether it's taking a shower, whether it's going on a walk. No matter how little or how big the goal seems compared to other people, write down every single win, write down everything that you do end up accomplishing, because there's just power in having something written down. that I've also discussed in other videos, so I don't want to get too deep into that right now, but just writing it all down, having it there. You can look back on those days when you feel like you're not accomplishing anything. And hey, look at all these days that I got through that day. I got through that day. I got through that day that I thought I wasn't going to get through. I got through that day I thought I wasn't going to get through. I'll get through this one as well. It's like the quote, I keep referring to things I've said before, but so far you've made it through 100% of your bad days. And that's a pretty good track record. So you really don't have any reason to believe that you're not going to make it through any hard days to come. And a practical thing that you can do with this is to, if goals, we talked about resolutions being intimidating. If goals themselves are also too intimidating, use to-do lists instead of goals. Write your to-do list every morning, like we were talking about. Once you have an idea of what you're doing, write your to-do list every morning. And much like any goals you set, allow yourself to be flexible. If you end up not being able to reach everything on the list, that's okay. You can move it to the next day. Things are able to be moved. And I know that it's hard to have flexibility because we have to have strict treatment regimens, strict things that we have to do to maintain our health. However, when it comes to this kind of stuff, flexibility is absolutely vital because things will change. Things will change, and you need to just know that you're able to roll goals over to the next day, to the next week. While having a time period in mind for a goal is, often ideal, it's not always the case. And just be flexible and realize that nothing you write down, whether it is in just a to-do list form, whether it's a goal, or whether you do decide to try to set a resolution for the year, just remember it's not set in stone, and you're able to adapt and be flexible and change that as the days and as the year goes by. Let's see here. Okay. We're making our way through this, guys. We are on number 5 right now. Although let me even check the chat real quick and see what we've got going on. Oh, okay. We saw a little amendment, a little edit to the goal there, the resolution of no more negative self-talk, and it is now for today, no negative self-talk. So there you go. I actually, that just reminded me when I was in one of the treatment centers I was in 2004, for my eating disorder, we would say the serenity prayer at the end of each group therapy meeting, and we would always add on the end of that, the serenity prayers: God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to know, or the wisdom to change the things I can't, the courage to change the things I know I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And we always added on at the end, just for today, because that's the focus on the present moment. And that's all you really have to focus on when it comes to these kind of goals, especially when you're dealing with chronic illness of physical or mental variety. Okay, number 5, another very important thing based on your current abilities: make your goals attainable. When you are setting your goals, when you're writing your to-do list, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever method you're using, start by setting goals of things that you already know you can do. Don't set goals that you've never done before, because that, again, recipe for setting yourself up for failure if you've never done it before. And then you try to do it and you're like, oh, well, why couldn't I do this? Well, the answer is you've never done it before. You're not in a place where that's the goal that you should have set. But, if you're not thinking about this stuff, we get ahead of ourselves and we try to shoot way too high. And we talked about that earlier. If you want to go back towards the beginning, talking about setting expectations too high or setting expectations too low, and what each of those, the problem with each of those things. But I'm sorry, guys, I'm losing my train of thought here. Brain fog is really getting to me right now. Okay, make your goals attainable. Start by setting goals of things you already know you can do, such as, and here's just a few examples of them. Reply to a text from a friend or family member, because sometimes text messages in and of themselves take a lot of energy just to answer, just to read, just to reply, whatever. So that can be one thing that you can do. If it's a day where you're physically able to use your device, you can put that on your list and you can check off, like, okay, yeah, I accomplished that goal for today. I accomplished that item on my list. I replied to my friend. I replied to my mom. I replied to my sister. I replied to my spouse, whatever the case may be. You could put on your list, fix breakfast, or if you're not able to fix your own breakfast, having your own breakfast or your own lunch or your own dinner, whatever the case may be, taking time to nourish yourself, or, reading one chapter in your Bible, or even just one page or one paragraph in a book, if that's all you can manage at any given point in time. The point is, make them attainable within your current wheelhouse. And one of the most important ones, of course, take all of your scheduled supplements and medications and treatments. It's so easy to fall off the bandwagon of staying 100% on top of every single thing that comes with managing chronic illness. And I am in no way saying that you're always going to be perfect at it, because that, again, impossible. Perfection is impossible. However, taking all of your meds, doing all of your treatments, all of that, that is something that should always be a goal, should always be a short-term and long-term goal, and not everyone that you beat yourself up at if you don't do it. It's just a really important one to keep in mind, so I had to add that in here. Make sure you're taking all your meds and supplements and doing your treatments on schedule as much as you are possibly able, unless there's, some totally outlier explanation. But I'm getting off track there, so let's get back to it, guys. Like we talked about earlier, setting goals on things that are within your wheelhouse and celebrating every win, no matter how small it seems, no matter how small it may seem to you. If you're able to accomplish anything, no matter how small it may seem, that's a huge win. And I want you to celebrate it. I'm challenging you right now. Celebrate it. Actually, tell me right now, tell me in the comments down below, in the live chat, whatever. Tell me, what is the last time you let yourself celebrate a win that you had? What's the last time you let yourself celebrate? Because far too often we don't let ourselves celebrate because we're too stuck in that cycle of beating ourselves up, which is a bunch of bullcrap, technically speaking. Oh, guys, we're starting this year off right. Let's see, like I said, yeah, even achieving those smallest things can help you feel like the day is not wasted. And that is just such a huge thing in and of itself, because even if objectively your day has not been wasted, it can sometimes feel that way if we're shooting for goals that are out of our reach and we're not able to reach them. That was redundant, but you get what I'm saying. So achieving small things helps us not feel like the day is wasted. And a power tip on these goals: take notes. So whatever the goal is, take notes on it. Slowly increase the amount of whatever it is that you do each day. Keep a log of what you're doing, how long you're doing it, how frequently you're doing it, how you feel before, during, and after, and just kind of keep track every time that you're able to write down, even if you're just jotting down a sentence or two about it. If you can keep a log and take notes on how certain activities, certain actions toward trying to reach certain goals, if you can take notes on how all that affects your body and, actually affects your mind or body, physically or mentally, it helps you not only be able to see kind of where you are at any given point in time and how you've done on any specific day, but it also helps you adjust your plans accordingly in the future, whether it's for the same goal, whether it's for a similar goal, or whether it's for something completely unrelated. That it just gives you a better idea of how your body can handle things and the timetable that you should plan on for, changing your goals or increasing the amount of time you're doing certain things. And let's see, guys. And just a note on that. If you feel better afterwards, like if you notice on one specific activity or goal, you feel better after you do it, keep that pace going for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe that's the pace that you need to stay. Maybe you need to stay at that pace indefinitely. However, if it is something that can be increased over time, maybe keep that pace for a week or two, and then very tiny increments, like incrementally, very tiny increments, increase the amount of time or the duration or insert activity here. And that's if you feel better afterwards, keep that pace. And if you feel worse afterwards, again, going back towards the beginning where we were saying, when in doubt, rest, let yourself take a break. If you feel worse after doing a specific activity, trying to reach a certain goal, give yourself a break, let yourself take a physical break. And that'll give yourself time to recover. And that's also an indication that if you feel worse after something, you are probably overexerting and trying to do a little too much. Again, not always the case, but more often than not, that is the case when we do end up feeling worse after doing something. It's because we pushed too hard. And whether that's because our goal was set too high or we just did it because we feel like we had to do all the things. Yeah, you don't. Again, take a break, recover, and kind of readjust your dial, tone it down a little bit, and attempt it once your body has had time to recover from that Goal or activity, guys. We're getting close to the end. We're going to be landing the plane soon. Along in the notes, though, I forgot to mention this. When you're making notes of things, also make notes of things like weather conditions, or time of year, or time of day, or meds or supplements that you need to get through any given circumstance, or tools that you can use, or tools that you can use to relieve symptoms while you're doing a goal, or beforehand, or like while you're working on achieving a goal, whether it's before, during, or after, anything that you have at your disposal to relieve whatever symptoms would come up and interfere with your ability to work on whatever you're hoping to work on. And a power tip for that is to make smarter goals and always expect to learn from the process. And that's the key. Expect to learn from the process. There's that word again, process. Don't always expect an end result to give you just that final sense of, oh, yeah, I did it. I just feel so great because I finished it. I got the end result. No. Make smarter goals, and I'm going to get to smart. I have smarter, that's in all caps, that's an acronym there, and expect to learn from the process. So if you have been in the goal setting world, or the self-development world, or any type of thing like this before, it's very likely, or even if you've just been in school, I noticed that I was in classes where they've taught this before, but there are things that you can see, they've been around a long time, that go SMART goals. And I believe the acronym for SMART goals, I believe, it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, reachable. I could be incorrect on that, so don't quote me, and timely. And Michael Hyatt, who is one of the best, or one of the most prominent voices in the leadership business world, he has a system where he says, no, don't do SMART goals, do smarter goals. And here's what that acronym is, according to him. When you're working on your goals, set goals and shoot for goals that are specific, that are measurable, that are actionable, that are realistic, that are time-bound, that are exciting, and that are relevant. And I will delve into in future videos more in depth on all of that. I just wanted you to have that information. Smarter goals, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-bound, exciting, and relevant. And we will definitely be talking about that more in the future. Just wanted you to have it right now for your notes. That way, if you want to look up some more about it on your own, you can do that. But Michael Hyatt, smarter goals. All right, guys, we got a couple more here and we are going to be through. So number 6, go with the flow. Now, I believe my mom's still on this live stream right now, and she would probably be the first one to tell you that that is possibly the thing that I am worst at doing. I know Roger in the other room, my husband, he'll tell you. He'll tell you right now, I am horrible at going with the flow, but it is something that I'm working on because it's just a necessity. It's a necessity to make it through this life, especially life with chronic illness. You have to be able, like we talked about, to be flexible, to adapt your plans, to adjust your expectations, and to let things happen. Just let things happen. Don't always pressure yourself to make them happen, because it's not always your responsibility. You are not responsible for making everything happen. I don't know if anybody needs to hear that right now, but I'm going to say it again. You're not responsible for making everything happen. No, you're not responsible. So don't pressure yourself with that. Just let things happen. And as they happen, adapt and adjust. Again, something that takes daily practice and months and years of daily practice. Honestly, it may be a lifelong practice, but going with the flow, letting things happen. Don't always pressuring yourself to make things happen. And that way, if you have a good day and you're able to achieve something above and beyond what you have hoped, like what you've put on your to-do list, or achieve something big that you didn't necessarily think you would that day, but it was like a surprise, you find this sense of like, oh, good, I'm going to celebrate. I want to celebrate this. I'm so proud. I didn't have this on my list today, but it's a big accomplishment, a big achievement. And here's the thing. What's big to you may not be big to the next person. What's big to the next person may not be big to this person over here. What's big to this person over here wasn't big to the person who did, whatever. Your race, your pace. There's no celebration, no accomplishment too small or too big to be worthy of the same amount of celebration. All accomplishments, all achievements, everything you get a mark off, worthy of celebration. But when you are not planning for something and you do happen to have a good day and you end up achieving more, it does give you that sense of just, man, I want to celebrate. I feel really proud right now. And it's just, it is a nice feeling. I'm not going to lie. It's a nice feeling when that happens. But also you're able to really feel that nice feeling because you've given yourself permission to not put the pressure on yourself of making things always happen and taking things as they come, or instead taking things as they come. And a big thing in here is, if like we're saying, if it is a goal that you've written down ahead of time, but you didn't end up achieving it, you're going to feel that sense of failure. But if it's not something you planned on and you do end up achieving it, you're going to feel that celebration and that pride. And this is not a negative pride thing. This is being proud of an accomplishment that you deserve to be proud of. And that also means that if it's a bonus achievement, there's no guilt. There's no guilt if it doesn't happen. There's no guilt, guys. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Can you imagine not having the guilt? The self-imposed, that's the key. The self-imposed guilt of, oh, I didn't do it right. Man, I feel really bad about that. I really should have done that. I should have done this. No. Eliminate shoulds. Take that word out of your vocabulary. Eliminate shoulds. Do not say things. Or if you find yourself saying these things, then I want you right in the moment to say, nope, not going there today. Literally say it out loud. Just say no. Just say stop. But if you find yourself saying any of these things like, I should feel better. I should have done a better job at this. I should be able to go here. I'm not where I should be right now. No. No. Take the word should out of your vocabulary, because that is a word that does nothing but lay on the guilt, lay on the shame, lay on the sense of, oh my gosh, I should have done better. I am a horrible person. I'm a failure. No. If you take should out of your vocabulary in that sense, you're going to be a much happier person overall. I can guarantee you, you're going to feel the joy. You're going to be able to feel God's joy so much more than you ever otherwise could. And oh yeah, the one thing that you can say instead of letting yourself, like one thing you can say in the middle, if you get in that should spiral and you find yourself just saying those statements like I was just saying, instead try saying this. Okay, I didn't do that, but it's one of my hard days. I can't control that, and that's okay. It's one of my hard days, and I can't control that, and that's okay. It's really simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is very, very simple. On your hard days, which you can't control the big picture of your health, that's just how it is. And saying that's okay means that you're accepting that. Okay, moving on to our last major point here, and it is make sure you allow for rest days. And what I'm saying this, obviously there is physical rest, there's physically not doing things that are exerting physical effort, but take a day or more to just brain dump. Get out your journal, get out a scrap piece of paper. If you're using your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever it is. I personally, I love using paper. I love using this journal right here. But to do my brain dump. And when I say brain dump, I'm just saying anything that is stressing you out or anything that is giving you joy, anything that is in your head that you just want to get on paper. If you can just give yourself a day or a time, give yourself an hour, give yourself 10 minutes to just start writing anything that comes into your mind, get it out of your mind onto the paper. You'll be able to process it a lot better. And on that day okay. Regrouping, guys. Take a day or more to brain dump all your stress onto the paper and make sure that you're focusing on your self-growth and on growing in your relationship with God on those rest days. And that can mean that you are just resting in his presence. And even if you can't do anything except turn on praise and worship music, you turn on that music and you sit there and you just bask in his faithfulness, in his goodness. I've done that so many days, especially in the past 8 years, but so many days in general, I've just sat there, listened to praise music and just let it overwhelm and wash over me because it is so healing. Even when we're not able to physically do anything else, that is a way that we're able to connect with God. Even if we don't have the words, our heart feels the connection. Our heart feels that we are growing deeper and closer in our relationship with God. And that is one of the best things that you can do on your rest days. And another thing, this is something to not do on your rest days. On your rest days, absolutely do not clean, do not work, do not worry about anything that doesn't give you happiness or make you feel more relaxed. Any of that stuff that is just the mundane stuff that you let yourself worry about, no. On your designated rest days, even if it was not planned to be a rest day, but it ends up being a rest day, don't do any of that stuff. Let yourself focus, self-growth, growing in a relationship with Christ, and not worrying about, oh, the house is messy right now, so I can't take time to listen to praise and worship music and just be right now, just be in the present with God because I have to clean the living room. No, no. Don't do those things on your rest days, because on those rest days, they're also rejuvenation days, and I'm talking physically and spiritually and mentally as well. But that actually ties into our very next point. It's the same point, just continuation. Mental health days are absolutely vital for clarity, and they give a reprieve from the absolute chaos of life. So mental health days, rest days, whatever you want to call it, they are absolutely vital. They are transformative, honestly. When you give yourself permission to have those days, it's transformative in your just approach to life in general. And that includes every aspect of your health. I don't know when this was sent in the chat. I just saw, said excellent there. I'm sorry, I did not see when that was first sent, but I'll go back and watch the video and see what you were responding to on that. But thank you. I appreciate the feedback always. A couple notes here I just want to share before we wrap this up. Just want to say routines and to-do lists. We've talked about those here. Routines are great. To-do lists are great, especially when they're helping you further your goals and make progress on your lists. However, while consistency is great, it's not great at the cost of your mental health. And I go through this with this channel that we're on right now, that you're watching this live stream. I go through this almost daily because I want to be more consistent, and that is the goal. However, I am not in a season right now where my physical health is letting me be as consistent as I would currently like to be. So I have had to adjust and pivot and refocus and be like, okay, I'm in a season where I can do some live streams. Maybe I'm in more of a planning season right now, at least in January 2021. Maybe my goal shouldn't be to go and upload a brand new video every single week, but instead focus on building up content so I can have content to release and be consistent in weeks and months to come. That was just a specific example based on literally my life and this channel right here, which if you're here and you've stuck around this long and you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that down below. So you make sure you don't miss anything else, because we're going to talk about a lot of kinds of stuff in this realm in days, weeks, months, and years to come on this channel. But consistency is great, not at the cost of your mental health. Like I said, I go through that with my channel. I go through that in some way with daily life, whether it is letting myself beat myself up for not reading the Bible as much as I wanted to, whether it's letting myself beat myself up for not being able to put dishes in the dishwasher before Roger gets home from work, whatever it is. I just want you to know I go through it. I go through also the negativity spiral. I guess we'll call it that. I get stuck in that. And that's how I can tell you, and that's how I know that I can tell you, because I experienced this personally, when we make it a priority to recognize that certain things are just not worth the cost. The cost versus benefit analysis of consistency versus mental health. When your physical health is not great, sometimes you just have to weigh those pros and cons and make your decision. Know that, again, your race, your pace, you're right where God knows you need to be, moving at the exact speed He knows you need to be moving. And so along those same lines, when you have routines, follow routines as a guide, adapt them to a slower pace as they are needed. And remember that expectations shift on all kinds of factors that you cannot control in any way. We talked about that. We've talked about that throughout this whole live stream. So focus on things that you can control, so that you are then more easily able to adjust your expectations in the future. So we're talking about focusing on what we can do and adjusting our goals and creating our goals based on our current abilities and what we can do, not focusing on what we can't do or what we don't have, not saying, I used to be able to do this, so I now should also be able to. No, present abilities. Focus on your present abilities, focus on your present situation, on what you can do. Don't set expectations too high, don't set expectations too low. Both sets you up for failure. And remember that, again, we're coming back to the land in the plane here. Progress is progress. Progress is progress. Progress is not perfection, and nor would you want it to be, because how boring would that be? If you work at stuff and you just get perfect and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what goals do I have to shoot for now? I know sometimes we think perfection would not be so boring, but it really would be boring. And that's not how we're designed. And why would we want to be anything but how God designed us to be? So again, progress is progress. Trust the process, embrace the journey, and your race, your pace. You're right where you're supposed to be. You're right where you need to be. And hustle culture and productivity culture, that has no power over you. That has no power over you when you are working on your relationship with God and when you are keeping Him in the forefront of your life and you are following these different guidelines and mental and like tangible, applicable strategies for using goals and managing expectations and productivity, using that for your advantage instead of getting overwhelmed and feeling defeated and like a failure, which, like we've said, we are prone to do. So whatever your goals are for 2021, whatever your resolutions are for 2021, I am so excited that you're here, that you are on this channel, that we are having this conversation, and that we are going to have so many more conversations throughout the year and in years to come. And again, guys, it's a new year full of new hope, not new hope, but renewed hope, new possibilities. And while that can be overwhelming, I'm urging you to try to approach it with excitement, because there is so much that God can do and wants to do in your life if we just surrender and let Him do it. So that is where we're going to be ending this today. And again, if there's anything, if this in any way was helpful to you today, if any of this spoke to you, if you were able to relate at all, let me know in the comments down below. And if you don't mind, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe to the channel so you make sure that you never miss our live streams or our regular update, tongue twister, or my regularly updated videos. And I can't wait to see you guys again whenever it is possible, based on God's plan for my pace. I feel like that was a little confusing. So we're going to end this. Thank you guys for joining. I'm so happy to have you here. Can't wait to go through 2021 with you. And as much as I don't like to be a Debbie Downer, aren't we so glad 2020 is over? So glad 2020 is over. So extremely thankful that I made it through. It's a blessing. If you're watching this, you've made it through 2020, and I'm so grateful for you. That is such a blessing. You are a blessing. Life is a blessing. And let's live this blessing and be a blessing to everybody else in the best ways we can. Let's make that a goal in 2021. Be a blessing to whoever you can, however you can, whenever you can, wherever you can. Ooh, that's good. I'm sure somebody has said that before, but I've not heard it before. So that just kind of gave me chills. I'm going to get off here and see you guys in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.